So, hello, I'm Eliza Tudor from Nevada County Arts Council, and I'd like to introduce my colleagues, Gianna. It's Diana, but it's pronounced Gianna, like Georgiana, Gianna, and Katrina. Yes. And Katrina and I have been working in a particular way together. Before we visit each community, we do a little bit of research about the community. And so what we present today in part shows you things about your community that to you are incredibly obvious, but to us are really helpful to know in advance, just so we can be sensitive to community conditions and opportunities and things like that. In turn, we want to feed back to these opportunities. So we'll be sharing the presentation that we share with you today afterwards. That's one of the reasons we want to email addresses for each of you. And we're going to be sharing a website for you to connect with, a Facebook page for you to follow, and all sorts of other things. But anyway, Katrina is a scientist, and so she brings a really unique perspective. We're not just looking at Northern California from the perspective of science, but our geography is something that is completely unique in the area that we're covering through this grant. Upstate California is enormous, and it's really helpful to understand the relationship of land and rivers and peoples. So that's why Katrina's with us today. She does have a squinting knee brain, so I'm going to try to call one her as little as possible. It actually even hurts for her to speak. So Katrina, if you need to duck out, that's really totally fine. And I will just speak quietly. I just want to quickly call out in a moment this amazing coffee Arnie has provided today. This beautiful coffee from Sleepy Bear Coffee, which is unique to Trinity County. It's really beautiful. Thank you so much, Arnie. So it's literally brewing. It's about to be ready. So at any time you want to duck out, maybe go around that way, and then grab some of Arnie's coffee. It's really special. I want to particularly thank up north. I mean, it's just amazing to be here. It's so beautiful. It just smells so delicious. It's literally like walking into a sort of Voldemort Christmas movie or something. So it's really great. So great thanks to Brian for having us here. Is there anyone from Trinity County Arts Council with us this morning? I was so hoping.
So we do have Carla with us on the Zoom,
wonderful.
which everyone I'm sure is aware that she's the executive director for the Trinity County Arts Council. So she'll be listening in, you know, to further engage in the future when she's feeling better. And we did have a board member here. Thoughts, sorry. Are you a board member for the Trinity County Arts Council?
You are a board member. That's fantastic. Great. You're an artist and a board member. Wonderful. So we'll be calling on you. Can you hear this? Is it sufficiently clear and loud for everyone to hear? Good. Okay. So how many artists have we have in the room with us today? Yay! Almost half. Can you just literally shout out what kind of artists you are? Like
Dance.
So at different stages, we'll be calling upon you and we'll be asking you to tell us about your community and who you are and what makes sense, and to brainstorm ideas. And again, because we may or may not get this to you in time, so use your outdoor voice. What's your name?
Mine?
Yes.
Chris.
You see, Chris clearly has no need of assistance.
Thank you.
But Chris can be my age today, like calling on people and speaking for people if I haven't heard you or we haven't got this.
Speaking for people.
Wonderful.
Without their consent, with their consent, I'll speak. Yeah.
Do we have any people representing local social service organizations, type things, environmental or family resources or great? And so who are you? Like what service areas do you provide? Really briefly. Yes.
Myself, my name is Randolph Sanchez, and I'm representing the Wintu Educational and Cultural Council of Northern California. We are responsible and try to overlook preserving as much culture as possible from the local native people, the original people that were here. And they have lost so much in genocide and different things like that, that it's really important that through art and culture that they can retain and promote, education about the original people that live here.
Yes.
I'm also a musician, and
That's so great. You are literally the perfect person to be in the room with us today. And just remind me of your name one more time.
Randolph Sanchez.
Randolph, thank you so much for joining us. And so you are a member of the Wintu tribe,
Not a member, I'm
incredible supporter of.
a representative, as much as I would like to be.
Yes,
Here's an original Wintu McMahon from the tribe here. He's the chair of the tribe. Tribe.
we couldn't be more thankful to be here on your lands. Thank you. What is your name?
My name is John Hayward. I'm trying to share.
I'm gonna ask John, I'm sorry, I'd like, because I want to capture you. The more we can give you voice, the better. If you could say your name and your,
Yeah. My name is John Hayward. I'm the private chair for the Morano Nation, Trinity County, where we're working towards their official recognition right now. We're probably the most, the only organized tribe in Trinity County right now. And we're seeking official recognition through the conventional way. So we're looking pretty good. Thank you for inviting me today.
thank you. And then, yes.
Hi, my name is Rick Weiler, and I'm a supervisor-elect for here in Trinity County District 1. We'll take office in January, and I'm surrounded by women in my family who are brilliant artists, and I play it.
So we're gonna completely put you on the spot today. Nate, first name one more time.
First name is Rick.
Rick, okay, great to have you with us, Rick. And I know that from the perspective of your public office, you're all for public support for the arts. That's wonderful.
Hi, my name is Anissa Intrante. I'm the watershed project coordinator for Trinity County Resource Conservation District. So we do a lot of the restoration work within the watershed, and I'm personally a geologist. So I like to combine outreach and education for environment.
Thank you so much. It's, I mean, literally, there's so much relevance in the room, everyone that should be here. Is there anyone else who'd like to call out their affiliation?
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I have the microphone. My name is Megan Lane. I am the Executive and Program Support Associate at the Watershed Research and Training Center. But I also teach ballet, modern, and Zumba dance classes at Trinity Dance and Fitness. Our work is similar to the Resource Conservation District, and that we're trying to improve our streams and our forest health and prepare communities for wildfires and become better adapted and deploy lots of mitigations and strategies to survive constant wildfires. So important work.
Fine, I'll speak. I'm Chris Williams, and I'm representing the Weaverville Chamber of Commerce today, and unofficially representing the Trinity players, mostly because I just didn't tell anyone else on the board that I was going to be. Now we are. Hi, I'm Julia Dixon with the Trinity County Office of Education. I'm the programs coordinator, and I help bring educational programs to our different school districts throughout all of rural and rugged Trinity County along.
Did you say alone?
I was gonna say along, I also manage our after school programs.
Okay, great. to
Along
know.
with that, but I didn't.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Along, and I'm on video, of course.
Oh, you haven't introduced yourself. I mean, I did call you out, but.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having us. I'm Arnie, newish to Trinity County. I'm originally from El Salvador. I went to school in Humboldt State. My wife's from Trinity County. Her family's been living out here for a few decades, I believe. And my background's in tourism. We were living in El Salvador, running a tourism resort when COVID hit. So we moved back up here, and like you mentioned earlier, I'm roasting coffee, so I guess that could be considered an art. That's my artistry at the moment. Yeah, I'm here to listen. Thanks to Carla who invited me out here. Love to listen, get to know my community more, and to be a little bit more involved. And like I said, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
I am Susan Marie, and I'm the director at the Highland Arts Center here in Woodbridge.
Fantastic.
My name's Valerie Farrell, and I own a business here called Young Truck. It's a music, arts, technology business. We run open mics weekly at our local brewery. And I'm just here to hear what your program is about.
Great, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Do you want us
Yes. And then we'll do everybody's free talk. It's really good. It's helpful for us to know who's in the room, and we'll just zoom on through. So
I'm Lisa Darrow. I own Kirby Roads, Keg Wines and Eastwood.
fantastic.
I'm Angel McMorrow. I am an artist. I'm a creative crafts, Starfield Honey, and Mountain Washington.
Thank you so much. That's so great.
I'm Margaret Taylor. I'm from Newport. I'm Margaret Taylor from Newport. And I'm a farmer person. Farm.
A farmer person. A farmer person. Farmer is no longer enough.
Farmer.
Yes,
I grow
Producer.
yes, that's it.
Alan Hall, representing Trinity Ironworks. I'm here just to find out more what's going on in the community.
Thank you.
I'm Vera. I'm representing the Trinity County Arts Council. I'm also representing my own gallery. And I'm also representing the artists in our community, which is extraordinary. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Pam.
I'm Betsy Hassan-Rani, and I teach at Michelle's restaurant around Highway 3. Stitching cars, knitting, crocheting,
Wonderful,
anyone that has a talent.
wonderful. Thank you.
My name is Michelle Myers. I'm the owner of Trinity Arts and Life Company, retail arts supply store in the.
Thank you.
My name is Amanda Berger. I'm the executive director of the Civil Wilderness Experience. We facilitate backcountry trips for both youth and adults. And we also organize stewardship in the Trinity Alps in conjunction with local agencies. And we run an outdoor and after school program.
Fabulous, thank you. Anyone we've missed in the back? Yep.
I'm Karen Hammer.
Speak into the mic if you would like, sorry.
It's Karen Hammer and I.
Thank you very much, thank you. And I
And
think,
artists.
and an artist, yes, and we're gonna pass it back. Yeah.
My name is Patrick Quinn. I'm a musician. I'm also a board member of Trinity Trailwinds.
Great.
I'm Rosalie Jones, and I'm a local artist, multimedia. I've done like shadow practice for theater, locally in Upstate State when I was in Maryland. I'm a volunteer on the Upstate Education Council. And I volunteer for middle elementary grades as much as possible.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Anne Hill, and I'm on the board of the Trinity Players.
Yes.
And I'm seeing one of my actors here. Chris, who you met earlier, she's one of my actors in we have a series of shows performing tonight. In fact,
Last weekend.
I just recently directed Marvin's Room, and I just want to see more of all the arts happening in our county.
We do have Carla here and she would like to introduce herself too. So Carla, you can just unmute yourself and
Hello,
Hi,
Carla.
everybody. Hello, Eliza.
Hi.
Hi, I just wanted to say hello to everyone in the room. I regret I cannot be there in person. I am sick, unfortunately. It even happens to me sometimes. But I just want to tell you that it means so much to see all of you in this room together today. And this is, even though this is the beginning of something, it is just such a momentous day in my mind as far as just some of the greatest minds in the arts in Trinity coming together to see what we can do to support each other. And I just want to thank all of you so much for being here today. It means so much to see you all there, and it brings me so much joy. So I just wanted to say hello and welcome to everybody, and thank you for participating today.
We can also say a big hello and thank you to Carla. Carla, thank you so much for having us. This is Eliza, and it breaks my heart that you're not with us in person, but the owl is the closest you can possibly get. You're sort of like in a little portal on the way to us. So thank you very much to Trinity County Arts Council. Is there anyone I missed? One of the reasons that I wanted you all to introduce yourselves is so that Carla would know who's in the room, other than being able to see you, of course, as she can through the owl. And I hope you're not creeped out by that tiny little sound. I spoke
I spoke to that owl like it was speaking to Carla.
I know.
Exactly. Sorry, Carla.
So, I'm gonna actually sit, because then I can put my laptop on my lap and I can go quite rapidly. In Trinity County, how would you, I'd like to give a formal land acknowledgement. It's something that we do. We come from Nisenan lands, and the Nisenan tribe is one of only a few within California who have had their federal recognition stripped from them in the 1960s, and who have yet to regain their federal recognition. So we are, like you are here, I'm sure, supporting your local tribe regain that recognition. We are doing the same. So we always begin at the Arts Council with a very formal land acknowledgement. Is there anyone that I can call upon now to give that acknowledgement? Some tribal members like to do it themselves, and other communities like to stand and acknowledge those who are in the room and the land that we stand on. Would it be you, John? Would it be you, Randolph? Would it be you, Pam, for the Arts Council? Who would like to lead that? John? Yeah.
Traditionally, everybody stood up.
Nice, very nice.
Hold it, God, shepherd, and each of God, and leader. They are prayers for the with the leader. I'm exalted, now I'm gonna get, the Baba is going, me and leader. Grant me courage and give me insight into the good of our people. While ye solitude, while ye forget. While ye saw who you are, hold him who you are. Hear from my heart for the good of our people. Who we solitude, who we forget, your Baba is going, me and leader, and guide our footsteps for the good of our people. Nor do our solitude, nor do we forget. The Baba is gone, me and leader. Tawo Kupaya, Tawo Bloom, if the head is gone, me and leader. Guide my footsteps for the good of our people. Tawo Shepherd. Tawo Bloom. People are calling, we are calling, all your people seek renewal. Renew our spirits, all of Shepherd, all my relations. Oh.
Oh.
Thank you so much. The very best way to begin a meeting, right? So, who among you agree with this statement that experiences related to health are often determined by factors beyond the individual, such as environment, policy, or culture, and that the arts have a critical and accessible role to play in tackling community conditions? What do you think? Unanimous agreement, right? It's not just about taking our multivitamins every day. There are so many things that are attached to our health and our well-being, and that's really why we're here. So I wanted to acknowledge again Trinity Arts Council. Looking ahead, Carla and Pam and their board of directors at the Arts Council are going to be absolutely intrinsic I'll just keep talking unless you tell me not to, in relation to Mike. I'm going to be intrinsic to how you keep in touch and learn more about this program looking ahead. I'm using my outdoor voice because I don't think the mic is working at this moment. So, but just let me know if you can't hear me. Carla and I are very connected, even though we're only recently known to one another. Carla's still quite new at the Arts Council, and before that I worked quite closely with Julie over the years. Julie Freely, isn't it? Field. Yes, it's a wonderful name. Carla and I represent county arts councils every year across California. An agency in each county will go before their board of supervisors and seek a resolution naming them eligible to apply for a program called the State Local Partnership Program, which is a program of the State Agency for the Arts, California Arts Council. It makes us perhaps one of the, among the most accountable agencies in your county. We're accountable to our board of directors, we're accountable to our board of supervisors, and we're accountable to the state. And in order to get even the nominal funding we receive, which is nominal, we have to go through a rigorous process of reporting and application and evaluation throughout the year. So it's quite extraordinary, and I say that because Arts Council executive directors are often underpaid and overworked. Carla, you don't need to say anything, but we're so delighted to be working as peers. We meet once a month, all of us across California, and then we have ad hoc committees. We're constantly educating each other on best practices and trying to figure out the best way to handle this. It literally is going in and out. We're a pretty cool bunch of people in terms of our desire to serve you, our diverse communities across the state. So what is California Creative Core? It's an economic and workforce recovery pilot program intended to fuel positivity, regain public trust, and inspire health and safety across California's diverse populations. So here we are, we've just come through a global pandemic. I would say, we have someone among us, Carla has COVID at the moment, so we're not quite through it, but we're through the pandemic side of it. The last time we were faced with an opportunity such as this program, the California Creative Core, a program that's similar to it would have been, came on the heels of the recession when President Roosevelt created the Works Progress Administration. Who's heard of the WPA? Yes, and you would have heard about that because underneath the WPA, which put to work millions of previously unemployed peoples, there were 4 programs that were dedicated to employing artists to bring them closer to the work of government and the work of people, public works. So visual artists, theatre people, the literary artists, musicians were all put to work to create extraordinary projects that mapped and documented the American way of life. And of course, artists had great fun with these projects. The idea from federal government was that the projects would show the very best of American society and history. But of course, there's no way artists are going to stick to the, stick to the rules. So some of the guides, for example, that literary artists created, and some of the plays that actors created were very, very tongue in cheek and sometimes a little disrespectful. We love that, don't we? So we're 100 years on from the WPA now. Times have changed. So although I give you that background as a way to inspire you, you might want to go away and perhaps research some of the amazing projects that came out of that era. Use the times that we are in order to, and where you are. You're in Trinity County and you're within the upstate region. There are many factors at play in the health and well-being of your communities that you can draw from. So the idea is that we want to put money in the pockets of artists. It's very, very rare for the State Agency for the Arts to have the freedom to pay artists directly. Normally, monies go directly to arts organizations who, in general, take minuscule amounts of overhead, but then employ artists. This program is unusual in that we are able to, we've been told we're allowed to pay artists directly and employ artists directly, and pay artists who are also collaborating as a team. So individual artists, groups of artists, artists who want to work with arts organizations and perhaps feel that they need that cooperation and partnership with local organizations in order to grow in their own capacity. Perhaps dependent upon the size of the project, whether it's local or region. As artists, you might feel that you either are capable and wanting to go it alone, or that you'd be better placed if you're working in cooperation with an environmental agency, social service organization, a unit of government, an education, an office of education, whatever it is, you will know best. Nevada County Arts Council is among 14 agencies across the state who have been named administering organizations in terms of our capacity to award grants to you. Grants will come from Nevada County Arts Council, but we'll be working with Carla and with Trinity Arts Council to create local peer-reviewed panels. So you don't need to worry that we over the other side of the upstate region will be making decisions that directly affect your communities. You're going to be in charge of this, working with us through a selection of community members within your local community. So what's the idea? The idea is to create public awareness around issues critical to society. And this presentation is about giving you clues as to the kind of issues that you might think are important in Trinity or regionally. So we're looking at things like water and energy conservation, climate mitigation, emergency preparedness, relief and recovery, and disaster response. Civic engagement, including the degree to which individuals feel comfortable being part of the census or voting. Even though we know, for example, that everybody has equal access to a vote or to participate in the census, that doesn't mean that all people feel safe doing so. So if you have a strong sense of how your community can help those who don't feel safe feel that they can participate better. And one of the things that we'll be doing today is looking at these determinants to help and considering what those reasons are. We know in this one small example, for example, that placing a vote gives us a sense of autonomy, and it gives us that strong connection between freedom in a democracy and responsibility. But if we feel like we're not safe doing so, that's an issue. Social justice and community engagement, public health awareness, all these things are clues that California Arts Council has given us, but they don't need to restrict you. You know something that California Arts Council or we don't. So let's move on. This is the map of California according to the California Creative Corps. And these are the administering areas. So you can see that upstate California is pretty ginormous. We have the largest responsibility in terms of administering 19 counties. The next one down from this would be the Central Valley region with 11 counties. And according to population, they get smaller and smaller. So you can see San Diego only has 2, Imperial and San Diego. So we have our work cut out for us, don't we? And this is one of the reasons that we want to work with our county arts councils across the upstate region to make sure that we're hearing from you before we create the grant guidelines. There are many ways of looking at California. The map on the left shows the economic regions, because at the moment there's, I'm trying to remember, 600 million, is it? That's being spent down through the California Economic Resiliency Fund, which is a program that's panning out at the same time as the California Creative Core. So in some places where we've been, some counties, we've had representatives from that fund, because we're very keen to draw awareness to the many areas that the arts impact both our social lives and the economic health of California. So then the map at the top in the middle, of course, is one of the most important ways we can think about creating projects. This map comes from UC Berkeley, and it really is almost too generalized to be relied upon in a way. And it shows more like the linguistic regional boundaries, if you like, of different tribes through history. And the one at the bottom is a particularly beautiful map that shows the relationship of our watersheds, the 3 main hydraulic regions of California. So you have the Sacramento River, the North with Longham. Is that how you pronounce it, Katrina? Yeah, and then the North Coast. But if a single drop of water were to fall anywhere in California, which watershed does it join? I find this very beautiful when we consider among us how to create projects around climate mitigation or watershed health or forest health, and all these things are so connected. We don't have to, this is an opportunity to think regionally as well as locally, if it makes sense to you. And then, of course, a physical map, which also points to the ways that communities engage with one another through transport.
I will just note that a unique element of here, of course, as you know, but I'm sure Mike and Eliza, is that the Trinity River, of course, you're part of the Klamath River watershed as the water goes out towards the ocean from here. But because of the infrastructure that was built, they're also tied in very closely with Sacramento River watershed. Since water leaves this basin and crosses over into another one, even if it doesn't mean that if a drop of rain fell, it would fall in that watershed through the pipes it is taken. So there's a lot of connectivity for you with both regions.
Thanks so much. I'm so hoping that Katrina will leap in whenever I get it, when I kind of miss a very important nuanced perspective. Katrina is a river scientist. So when we look at Northern California, the upstate region, and we're calling this program the Upstate California Creative Core, we're looking at 19 counties, 31% of California's total geography, but only 4.2% of its population, dispersed over mountain ranges, huge converging river systems, coastal regions, high desert, low desert, incredibly diverse geography. And this is why we're doing this listening tour. As far as I know, we're the only administrative region for the California Creative Core that is conducting a listening tour prior to creating the grant guidelines that will serve you in the early part of next year. And that's because how can we possibly know you if we don't come and meet with you? So again, you know, incredibly diverse precipitation averages for the region. 14 inches a year in Modoc, 95 years in part of Del Norte, from sea level to 14,000 feet, and a very mixed economy of agriculture, timber, ocean fisheries, mining, tourism, and energy. Again, all these things are just clues for you when you're thinking of the kind of grant that is going to create awareness around issues that are critical to you. So we're going to be introducing today a new tool that the state of California has passed down to us to use when evaluating the relative success of our projects at the end of the grant program, and it's called the California Healthy Places Index. When we look at this index, we want you to use scale and relativity. It was developed by the Public Health Alliance of Southern California. So you're going to think, well, how would they know what we're feeling? How do they know what health and well-being looks like to us in Trinity County? So we're going to ask you to, well, we look at these very broad rate-based markers or indices. We're going to say to you, you know more about this than this map might be sharing with us. And we challenge you to create a case for others that you know are related to them. Are you feeling well enough to speak to some of these elements within Trinity County, Katrina?
Well, when we come into each region, we want to understand many of these things that you already know, but you know, to understand different elements of the county, because it relates to some of the indices we'll see when we open up the health and crisis index data. And so part of it is understanding. Now, I'm a watershed junkie. I always like to know what rivers, because a lot of people centered themselves around the rivers that live, as well as looking. One thing I loved, well, I have it written on there and I took it off from here, but I did see that Trinity County, you see the note right there, is the only county in the upstate region where you don't have. Do you see what it says right there? The number? Yeah.
It's the Norrell.
Oh,
sorry. Where do what?
Well, anyway, I think it's that you do not have any designated cities. It's some, right? Is that right?
No.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. No incorporated cities. Yeah.
So I like that. That was actually gave a great sense of this place. Looking at the public lands helps us understand some elements of the tax basis in the area, because obviously the more public lands you have, the less tax revenue you have to be able to use within the area. But there's my fun fact right there. Okay, and then college and universities also helps understand access to bachelor's education. One of the indices we'll see in a little bit. How far do people have to go? Do they have to leave entirely the area to pursue 4 years of education? And then the county resources groups, because these are the people that are working close hand with it and right up front against, with these indices and the factors and trying to address some of this. So understanding what groups that artists could partner with to get more of the information, the data, the understanding of what's been done, how they might play a role. So.
Thanks, Katrina. And again, when you look at these community resource groups, just make sure that's properly plugged in. When you see these community resource groups, you might see that there are some that are missing. Please let Carla or Pam know if there's anything particularly missing that we can add to before we send back this presentation to you. Again, use these as clues in order to help build capacity and cases for support around possible projects. This is a map, a historical map of the fire history of this part of California going back 100 years. So when you look at this, Katrina, would you like to speak to it, or would anyone else like to share what they see? When I look at it, I just see incredibly beautiful images, and it's sort of like a piece of art. But it's also rather terrifying, because you notice that the larger the fires as they go through time, our fires are becoming larger and more devastating and more hard to control. And we know that that's connected with forest management, watershed health. It all ties in. So when we talk about possible projects around climate mitigation and fire, for example, or watershed health and clean air, we might want to be thinking about what our fire history looks like in this region. Want to speak to this, Katrina?
Just, it's fun to search for maps. It's just another variation. This is more recent in the past 2 decades, not the whole century. So I think most of all, and again, this is something right up front, firsthand. I don't even think this includes the ones from last summer, the virus. So But it's obviously a very big issue in Trinity County and something. And we have seen this throughout a lot of regions in our state region. We went through Greenville up in Lewis County, and there's quite a bit of just information we learn is that the part I'm going to put forth as a challenge is the reality of fire as part of our landscapes. We as one of the kind of very fire high risk place. So what does that mean? What does that mean as we go forward? What do we want to look like 50 years from now? We were quite pressed in Greenville where they made a choice. Their entire town burned down and they're occupying down there in trailers to reestablish, but they're changing the entire way the downtown is. They're changing where the business district is and where the homes are. Because, you know, seeing this as this opportunity to hold the community in a different way. So I just put out that, you know, what do we see in 50 years from now here in Trinity County? And then how does that relate to neighboring counties and collaboration in the whole upstate region?
So in the case of Greenville, we were driving north from Loomis to Lassen at that point. And right in the middle of what was otherwise a devastated town, the town of Greenville, we came across some trailers that had gathered in as a small hub at the edge of a road in an area that they considered should actually be the new hub for a new town. And these trailers were painted incredible colors. There was artwork all over them, public art. They were artists who were gathering. Artists were leading the way in redefining what their community should look like and redefining resiliency. It was absolutely gorgeous and sort of it was amazing. It was like a display of resiliency, but also heartbreaking all at once. So artists do have this incredible role to play, I believe. And here is the mighty Klamath watershed. And again, if you look at all these, the offshoots from the Klamath, you can see all the incredible opportunities to work together if one did want to be putting together a project around watersheds. So, yes, please.
And I think you all would probably know as a part of the Klamath watershed, as it comes on down, about the ruling yesterday that is finalized about the dam removal. Yeah. In the Klamath Basin. And so again, your neighboring counties are all really eager to imagine what that might look like in terms of projects overall for the whole watershed, includes Trinity County.
So we were in Reading last night, and it was such massive news to so many people in the room, really incredible, and it's so loaded for news. And again, it's just an incredible opportunity. It was extraordinary that it came through yesterday when we were there. So on the Healthy Places Index, and we're just about to give you a live demonstration so that you can go away and use this as a tool for yourselves. Please be aware that there are correlations between, and we know this already, there are correlations between the composition of race and ethnicity in any given region of California and our health and well-being, and that those most vulnerable around which and who have most to contribute we want you to pay attention. We want to see in your grant applications that you've shown an awareness for this composition, and I'll show you how to find that within the map. It's very, very easy. So here you have, like most rural regions, due to Western colonization, I always feel like I need to apologize. Somehow there is, you want to look at the degree to which you're, the percentage of Native Americans and what possible projects can come in collaboration with, led by, supporting of projects that serve these incredibly important First Peoples. Here is the Healthy Places Index, and again, we're going to be giving you this. When you look at this map on the right-hand side, what do you see? You see two colors, blue and green. And you see dark green, dark blue, light blue. And then you see exclusion areas, which are kind of diagonals, gray and white stripy areas. And that simply means that the California Healthy Places Index, the Public Health Alliance, hasn't got sufficient data because of low population levels. I think it's 1,500 per census tract, to be able to draw correlations and accurately draw conclusions about the relative health. Having said that, if there is an exclusion area in your communities, we want you to challenge us. You may know more than the Public Health Alliance of California and us about what's going on there and how to create projects that connect with those communities. So this is where I'm going to go into, actually, we're not quite there yet. So why census tracts? Census tracts boundaries are delineated by relatively permanent geographic features, allowing for comparisons over time, census to census. So when you go into the California Healthy Places Index, you will see a California that doesn't quite correlate with what we expect it to in terms of county lines, etc. You can search by county, but it gives you much less of a picture than you might imagine than if you were to look at it by census. So bear with us here. What are the markers? What are they looking at when they determine the relative health of communities? So we're looking at economic factors, education, social factors, transportation, neighborhood health, housing, clean environment, and healthcare access. We're not going to be going through these in detail, but just so that you know, when you receive this PowerPoint from us, you can explore this and use our presentation as a sort of launching pad. Because each one of these areas, you know, economic, education, social, etc., there are other things within there that provide you clues to creating a case for support for your project. Would you like to speak to this one, Katrina?
And we'll go quickly through this because I think it's much more useful to look at specific tracks. This is a generalization of all of Trinity County. So one way that it is really useful, we can see areas where Trinity County scores high or low in particular indices. And that can help understand what we might be seeing in some of the tracks. In this case, the county is pretty consistent. You know, I mean, there's a lot. So when we open that on up, but the lowest scores ended up in Floyd for the county. Economic looked as well for education. 3 out of 4 tracks were dark blue, which is the lowest quartile for education. So that's something we want to flag to look at. Healthcare access as well. I know that's 3.6 percentile means that there are 3.6% of counties in all of California that have a lower score than Trinity County. So you go 100 minus 3.6, that's how many counties have higher scores. So also looking at the Native American population overall with the maps in track 2, as well as the Latino Hispanic with the maps at 15.8% in track 3. And that's, we're going to look more closely at track 3 and we can look at other ones as well as we go through. Now, let's get it.
Thanks so much. So what we did was get our designer to, because I was very confused, knowing that we were going to be going county to county. I asked her to create an overlay so that you can see the degree of you know, relative health across Trinity County. So when you were to, so if we were to go back to this map here, which do you think the most healthy areas of California are? Which color?
Green. San Francisco. Area.
The dark green, and why? Affluence. And why? I keep saying why.
Industry.
Industry, yeah. Basically, wherever you've got a large urban center, cities, you have resources, you have access to resources and education and choices. And in rural California, we just don't to the same degree. It's as simple as that. So if you look at, so the dark green areas are the very urban areas in the most part, where populations do have access. Even within those areas, there are some areas of concern. So for example, the Bay Area, although it looks like it has a high proportion of dark green and healthy communities, there are going to be things that are pulling it down. And so populations there are going to be looking at how to use this data to make those conditions better. We're going to be asking the same of you in Trinity County to look at the very dark blue areas. Those are the areas that we're identifying that need the support of our artists. So let's now go into the Healthy Places Index. Just gonna pull that out in a minute when I get online and have a look. By the way, any of you want coffee, don't forget to go and get some Barney's coffee. Yeah, can we continue while you're brilliant. Okay, so this is the Healthy Places Index. And what you're going to want to do is click on the map. And it takes a while to load. This is so fascinating. Takes a while to load. There's California. And there's the northern part of the state. Let's zoom in on it a bit more. And then Katrina, what I want you to do is to just gently guide me to an area, like there we are in Weaverville. There we are in Weaverville. Should we look at Weaverville or should we look at?
Yeah, let's start with track 3 though. I can start with.
Great, so what we do is we hover over the different tracks until we find the tracks that we want. And here we go, we're going to click on that, and as soon as we do, on the left-hand side, we're looking at Hayport here. It tells you what the overall Healthy Places Index score is for that tract. It's telling you that it's 4.7 percentile, which means that it has healthier community conditions than only 4.7% of all the other tracts in California. That's pretty shocking, isn't it? So what can we do to help? So we're looking at all those different indices: economic, education, social, transportation. They're all within the lowest quartile, those 4 things. And then healthcare access, of course, which we talked about. Katrina, what do you think we should dive into here?
Well, I mean, anyone gets to speak up what you're most interested in. I'll say you should look so you can understand the tool of economic. Let's start with economic, but then we'll go to education.
Okay. So then if we look at, yeah, why don't you speak to that, Katrina?
Well, I mean, the numbers, so with each one, Eliza can take the tab and open it up. So employed a 1.9 percentile score, that's quite low. So she can open that up and compare it. But one thing you'll see, it's not that far off than the county number, right? So I bet this is, this is a condition that's experienced quite a bit in this tract, but it's throughout the county too. So the larger scope of understanding what's some of the factors about that. I don't know if you want to go further into that, but I was thinking education might be.
Yep, sounds good. Let's have a look at education.
So one of the things that stood out on education for this track is I noticed, I mean, overall, the score for this was 9.1 percentile. And the score for the county is higher, still dark blue, but it's higher. So what is it that's comparing? Any particular one of those that anyone wants to look at? One of the preschool enrollment, since it's quite low. So it's not that different than the county in this case, but it's the education overall score, so it must be the bachelor's ed, some other things that are driving it up. But again, just trying to go into this and understand, and if you have a particular issue that you're concerned about, that you feel like you have all kinds of ideas of how to address, Eliza can actually have open a particular indice and then move from different tracks, and you can see directly right there. So maybe just go back from preschool enrollment to education overall. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
And I'll just show how the other tracks will give you.
So at the moment we're on track 3, but if I were to just click in the neighboring track, it will tell me the equivalent in education in that track there. And then I can move across, and so you can compare and draw analysis and create cases for support for your project as it connects with intergenerational learning or education or high school enrollment, whatever you want to be looking at. Is this Trinity as well?
That's something.
That's Humboldt, isn't it? Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
So let's just take a quick look at Weaverville for a second, since we're here. How many of you actually live in the town? So quite a few of you. So you can see how it's pale blue here, can't you? So if you were wanting to create a project that's specific to your little town, what you want to be doing is looking at these policy action areas that are in the lowest quartile, in the dark blue areas, in terms of how to make improvements. So the two areas that it seems are pulling Weaverville, that particular tract into the darker blue region, the least healthy regions, are the economy, the economic life, and the social aspects. So if we dive into the economic side of things, we can see employment is an issue here. And if you dive into the employment, you'll see what this looks like even further. And if you scroll down, you can see what the connection of employment is to health. And again, this is narrative you can use when you're making your case for support. Every household should be able to afford the necessities of a healthy life, whether medical care, healthy food, quality housing, education, and other basics. Stable employment allows people to afford the goods and services that are necessary for good health. Research indicates that economic opportunity, especially having a job, is one of the most powerful predictors of good health, and that impacts on health are especially pronounced for people in or near poverty. All these things are clues to projects that you can develop, and you can use this to boost your application when it comes to it.
Maybe show also before you want to show, go back, it's just track 3 or whatever, but show also the bottom scroll and you can see things like racial diversity, green track.
Absolutely. So here we are back in track 3, and this gives you the racial and ethnic composition of that region. So you can see that there's quite a high Hispanic or Latino population.
It's actually highest for the
It's highest for the entire county. Does this come as a surprise to you?
Yes.
Yes, isn't that interesting? But so on the one hand, you're seeing that it's the least healthy tract within the county. And you're also drawing a correlation between the very high Latino population. What is that? What are we looking at? You know better than we do. Is there a project that can be wrapped around and worked in cooperation with the Latino population that would serve this region and help change the need, turn the dial on it? So these are all offering you incredible clues. And then don't forget the 2.8% tribal percentages here, and what can be perhaps achieved in support of and in cooperation with tribal voices. Is that helpful? And again, say we were just focusing on race and ethnicity, you can move between and see how the others compare. Tract 2, for example, has a much higher. Where is the Wintu tribe, by the way? Where is there a specific area of? Where is that? If you
Between Shasta and.
Would it be here?
Around here in the territory. All Trinity County.
Yeah.
This is trying to get Shasta County years ago.
Yeah.
Trinity County.
There's not specific designated land as far as I understand. It's been for your reservation in Trinity County, but elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
Designated for.
So if the tribe, for example, wanted to work in collaboration with tribal members across the county line into Shasta, that might be an opportunity. But we leave that to you. We're just sharing the opportunities for engagement. So is there anything, before I leave this, because I actually am very, very keen, because we started a little late, to just turn this over to you and start talking about projects. Anything else you want me to dive into?
You could look at like ones that are doing like okay and.
Sure. Which one happens?
White people. You're gonna, it's 100% of the line.
Oh, then you can do, and clean environment, those are the two items.
True. Better air when we're not under the fire.
You're able to speak
Yeah.
real quickly just on some of these indices. This is a tool that's right here. So you can open up things for those neighborhood scores as well as the environment.
but I'm gonna let you know, we do really well in upstate with environmental conditions. And the neighborhood, there's a component that's called tree canopy. So I'm gonna just challenge us to hold it. These are some people from, like, you know, pretty much an urban environment that are designating us really healthy because we have a lot of tree canopy up here, and we know we have a very dense forest, and that is directly linked to fire. So don't feel confined with how they determine it, but you know what determines health here. And so those I have found generally the factors of neighborhood, they're not really as informative as we know that they could be. So think about what would inform healthy neighborhoods in a rural community? What determines a healthy environment in a rural community? Because a lot of these indices are geared more to an urban.
So an example will be that one of the things that are measured is the access of an individual and a community to public parks, public spaces where you can enjoy and feel safe with your family, etc., etc. When we were in Tehama, they said, well, yes, we do have, this map is telling us that we have great access to public spaces and public parks. And yet we don't feel safe going to these because we have such a high homeless population. And these are places where the homeless congregate. So there you go, there's an incredible project for artists to gather around how to create healthy, safe access to public parks in their city centres, for example, but also how to harness support for the homeless population, and what units of government, what social service organisations can we partner with as artists to make that happen? What kind of projects and campaigns for awareness can come from that? So that's where we tell you, take this lightly and challenge it. And if you feel strongly that you need to make a case for an area that isn't obviously in alignment with the public healthy index, be sure that you're letting us know why and give us a good reason for it. Shall we go back to our presentation, because I'm quite keen to now turn it over to you, and I want to sort of share some ideas and hear some ideas from you. First of all, we'd be very interested, well, we'd like to share with you how are we going to apportion the funds? We have almost 3.4 million to disperse among 19 counties. So if we were to do this by county boundary, it would be like 170 or 180,000 per county. But don't you think it would be more interesting and more sort of equity bound if we were to also take into account other factors such as the density of dark blue areas of less healthy communities, and things like the county population, its geographic size, county, tribal and ethnic considerations, and cultural and racial equity in general. I really, really encourage you to think about who's not at the table, who's not in the room, who needs support, who have incredible access to the kind of creativity that we might not be aware of and that isn't here with us today, our BIPOC communities. Again, the fact that our tribal chair is in the room with us, really, I challenge us to create a project with your local tribe, in support of and with your local tribe, or have and make sure your tribe is, if you're speaking for the tribe, make sure there are tribal voices involved and that you have permissions. You know this. Overall proposal strength will always be important to us. Make your case and make it well, and use the tool as best you can, and challenge the tool as best you can, bringing your lived experiences to it. The likely longevity and sustainability of a project beyond the pilot program's grant activity period. So we'll open this up for your applications in February or March next year, and then the end of the grant activity period will be sort of mid to late, the very last, when we have to feed back to California Arts Council on the success of your projects, having heard from you, will be September 2024. So it's at least a year. We want you, and you create projects together, to be thinking 2, 3, 10 years from now. Did I create the kind of project that could then lend itself as a case study for other communities in California or even across the nation? This is the first statewide pilot of its kind in America that kind of mirrors the sort of ambition of the WPA with all its different contexts. All eyes are upon us. Within a week of being awarded the administering organization status by California Arts Council, I was delivering a nationwide presentation to county boards of supervisors and arts commissioners across the state, across the nation. All eyes are upon us. Think about however small or however large your project is that you're going to be proposing. Think of it in terms of becoming a gold standard, something you're so proud of, has such meaning for your local communities that it can be replicated elsewhere, either by you or others.
You say 3.2 million for the entirety of the.
Yes, 3.4 million, or close to 3.4, 3.8 something.
For the 19 counties.
3.8 something, yes. So it's actually not that much. It's a lot, but it isn't. So it's a pilot program. So let's create some really fabulous projects in a really thoughtful way by really working together as a community and coming up with those, what makes most sense.
Is there like an economic or cost kind of variable that you would like us to kind of match or meet? I mean, obviously the funds aren't exuberant. We can't even create parks and whatnot with 20th of 19 of 3.4 million. So is there like a economic cap you'd like to put on those?
So Arnie's asking about, how much you should ask for, essentially, and whether we will expect,
Being over ambitious on both.
and whether we would expect you to match funds. I don't think we'll be expecting you to match funds. Often it is a requirement of the state when we apply for grants, and Carla would know this, that we have to provide matched funds. In this case, I don't think we will. However, sometimes makes for a really great application if you can say that you have the support of your local town, your city, your board of supervisors, your community. Do you have a community foundation here?
We have no money. It's a county.
Do you have a community foundation?
There's several community kind of groups, I believe, at least in our community.
So several community groups that could be approached with some kind of support, whether it's in kind or financial.
Like Trinity Trust.
Great, so Trinity Trust would be one of those, and I wondered if we had mentioned them as a community resource group. So be thinking about this, and as individual artists, if you want to go it alone and create a smaller project that you have the capacity to succeed in, who are your patrons? Who loves your work? Wow, that's so great. I love it. So we would take from you, like, these are other considerations. What would be a meaningful size grant for an individual artist if you want to do a residency in collaboration with an empty space, a business owner, or a social service organization, or a unit of government, or an empty storefront? What would that look like? How much would you need in order to, draw a living wage from it over a period of time, and to what ends? You tell us. And if you don't have the answer now, speak to Carla about it, because we're going to be gathering together. Carla and our other county arts agencies across the upstate region will be gathering together to speak about everything we've heard from communities. So yes, there's so many things to think about when we think about how large the grants should be. Obviously, for regional sized projects that involve a larger number of artists in collaboration with a larger number of partners, those grants will be bigger. We may have we may leave enough money in the pot for discretionary size grants. Say we get something that's so profoundly impactful as an application with such extraordinary support that is visible, and letters of support and recommendation and evidence of an artist's capacity or artists' capacity to work together, previous examples of work and all that sort of thing. Obviously, we can go higher. We don't yet know, we don't yet have the answer, but if you feel strongly, if there's a tipping point for the sorts of projects that at a certain level of funding can create meaning, let us know. So with this in mind, I'm gonna just open it up. I'm gonna put this maddening laptop down, keep this on the screen. Over to you, and I think I'll just walk around with this because I really want us to capture a few.
Can I ask you a question before we move to that?
Yeah.
Does the funding, would it apply to per se, public infrastructure, public works that would benefit community like something itself, or does it have to be targeted to individual people or artists or less?
I can barely hear you, Ollie, when you speak.
Sorry, my question was, is the funding, does it cover public works or infrastructure that may benefit a large form or a larger segment of the population versus a more smaller or detailed
It could
segment?
be-
Does that make sense?
The projects would be a
Trail preparation that would benefit the entirety of the economy versus just like a specific artist.
That's a fabulous question. It can be as small or as large as you like. If an individual artist has a distinct project, has a connection with a vulnerable community and proven, work with that community before, in other words, they're trusted by that community, that's great. And then if an artist or artists want to partner with, again, a greater network of regional or local communities, on a project that's really meaningful, like a network of trails and public art going in on those trails that connect with the environment, for example, then make the case for it. We'd love to hear that. Any thoughts from you? What are you dreaming of projects as you listen? I'd love to hear it.
My name is Michelle Myers. I'm with the Trinity Arts and Crafts.
Put it much closer to you.
Thank you. I'm also a board member at the county level and a board of education. And I have a passion for our children. I believe there are so many opportunities as far as the statistics and the indexes. Education is so important. Our kids can't get to the education. So as educators, we need to bring the education to it. So I'm just vocalizing that if we can see potential of future education opportunities where education will come to us instead of us trying to seek it out. So that's.
I love the idea of all our projects in a way. Involving intergenerational learning, we have to, in a way, focus on the next generation. It's been a devastating time for our kids as we've come through the pandemic. And it's been appalling. So I do encourage the idea of intergenerational learning, although that won't be an eligibility criteria. It won't stop there, but it's great that you brought this up. Speak well into the mic.
Yes, I just want to speak with Michelle here on the passion for education for children. 15 years ago, my partner and I started the Festival of Life, which was last weekend. It used to raise funds for the scholarship for education for art, music, and dance programs for Trinity County children. It has been in existence for 15 years. We have looked for teachers for 15 years. We may have 3, and it depends on their schedules. We need teachers. We need teachers to implement this program. We have a scholarship for these kids. We work hard towards it, and it is a passion. It is partnered with Trinity County Arts Council. So please, if you know teachers that would like to contract with us to teach these children in these areas, we would really appreciate it. So that's where my need lies.
If you're going to speak, if you could pass the mic, that would be lovely. Thank you.
I was gonna ask if this for certified teachers or artists.
Yes, that is something that we wanted vetted teachers or teachers that could be vetted for these projects, and there are plenty of retired teachers around here, just saying. And, so I think that, we could definitely put this together. We just need, I don't know, somebody needs to know that we do this after 15 years, or somebody needs to refer us to people, or something needs to come together about this, but yes.
Regarding the allocation of funds, I like the idea of a little heavier allocation to the Hartford Blue. I think that makes sense, because we struggle so much and when things get chopped up 19 ways, it's not such a big number. The second point, and I can build on what Pam said, 15 years ago, they started this thing. Building on existing infrastructure would be really good for our projects
What is
versus
this
everybody. Well, okay, to me, that is an established program. And so what does it need? How could we boost it rather than starting something new from scratch or building something from scratch?
I'm
That's
struggling to understand what the existing program is. I'm so sorry. I'm feeling like I've been caught in Chinese whispers. If you could keep, if each one of you refers to a previous comment, would you also repeat what it is? Partly this is because we'll be editing this video, so I need the comments to relate to each other.
So this is regarding the Festival of Lights, which Pam and her partner started 15 years ago, and it has lovingly been built upon over the years. So my comment is that rather than building and doing all these new things and scurrying around, that I've noticed here that if we could take the things that are already working and help boost those or help those be managed and supported so that they can live on into the future.
Thank you so much. And I've heard this repeatedly, and I'll come to you in a moment. I've heard this repeatedly, the question of can the funds fuel projects that a community might place great value in and want, but have failed to thrive through other means. I need to go back to California Arts Council. Normally, California Arts Council tends to fund projects that are unique, distinct, new, etc., etc. But because we've heard this so frequently about the wish from communities to fund existing projects that the community values, I think a couple of things come to mind. Assuming it were possible, you'd need to create a sense of how at the end of the grant activity period this project, the Festival of Lights, would be sustainable into the future, how this particular sum of money would lend itself to creating that sustainability. Is it because it would leverage other partners looking into the future that could pick up the slack, for example? What we're trying to do is find projects that can spur a kind of healthy permanence, so that once they go away at the end of the grant, these funds go away at the end of the grant activity period, there would be public will for them within the community. Does that make sense? So think about how to create public will, whether it's government funding, other funding sources locally, or some kind of revenue stream, whatever it is, and build that into your application. But I am going to go back to California Arts Council and ask this specific question. I'm very grateful to it, and thank you for telling me. It's like I kind of lost the thread at some way, but the Festival of Lights, it sounds gorgeous. Do you all love the idea of a Festival of Lights?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gosh, you would think that with so much love, it it should be there, shouldn't it? Okay, person at the back, who's holding my partner with the talking, and then speak well into the mic.
My name is Amanda, and I want to piggyback off of what Susan Marie spoke to. As someone who's written grants in this rural county with low amount of resources for a number of years, over a decade now. The most success that we can find in a rural community such as ours is by networking with the foundations that have already been built. Everything here is grassroots. Even like the government. And a board might be 3 people, it might be 2 of them related and then their friend, and that is how grassroots we are here. But if we have an opportunity where we network together and to have the longevity that you're speaking to, so that there is insurance that these impacts will continue beyond the funding, then 4 or 5 of these grassroots networks that come together with their 3 board members each are then 15 people strong and networking to more people. And so that's how success is really found here. And I want to ask this group, how do we know who all is here and what we're doing? How do we share that information so that when we think about this and how to make a really strong application, how are we going to share that right now, you know, like in the future? And that's what I think we could do. One of the things we could do moving forward from this.
Yes, this has come up a couple of times with other communities too, like what happens after today? How do we all connect to each other? Carla at the Arts Council might like to create a Facebook group so that you can all just have live conversations about this and reconnect with one another. So that's a little challenge we're offering our state, local partners, our other county arts councils, and then you can continue that conversation. We also have a Facebook page as well, and you can comment on posts and things like that. But Carla, looking forward and can with the Arts Council, we're going to encourage you to continue these conversations. In a way, we're giving you a head start. I don't think in other regions this is happening. So this is like your call to arms. Remember, this is called a California Creative Force, CORPS. You are an army of artists. Together you are stronger. You are better able with this advanced notice to start mobilizing. So I say mobilize, mobilize, mobilize. Take responsibility. You know who's in the room today. Reconnect afterwards. And we'll connect with your permission. We'll connect you all by email as well without having to BCC you so that you can pick up on each of those threads of conversations. Anyone who hasn't spoken?
So I'm not representing this group I want to talk about, but in Hayport, we have an organization called Mountain Anchors Workshop. And they were gifted one of the last historic buildings on Main Street in Hayport several years ago. And it is an enormous restoration project, and it's an old theater. And I believe that that restoration would lead to economic development in Hayport. My business is right downtown, and so is the theater. And I just think maybe a project like that might be really great for this opportunity. What do you think?
So, did everyone hear that?
Mhm.
So here's what you need to do. Go away and find an army of artists. Talk to those artists with a view to employing them through a project that will revitalize and bring to life and create a community hub from that beautiful historic building. One of the projects at the WPA, one of the strands, the visual arts strand that paid visual artists to create public human infrastructure. An outcome of visual artists working within communities is that informal hubs for the creation of art were developed for community members who wouldn't otherwise have access to art. So artists created access for other artists, and one thing begets another, and soon the community is so proud. There's pride of place developing, and other agencies and other sectors are looking at that, which is exactly what they're saying. So I challenge you. You will hear my challenge.
Okay.
But I recommend if you were to write a grant application, already know who your artists are going to be, or have a very clear sense so that it's not in any way vague. So you really need to know that artists are the ones that are going to be benefiting. And a key part of it is their vision that we're going to be working with, etc. At the back. Sorry, one more time.
So my name is Patrick, and I just had a question about the grant in general, kind of what Lisa asked. So Lisa mentioned the historic building that would be a restoration project. Does the grant allow for or scope in capital improvements to structure the building?
No, and that's why, so the capital improvements, unfortunately, well, when we say capital improvements, that's what you were speaking about, wasn't it? There's nothing to stop you gathering together a group of artists and paying them to create change. You know, so if you call that a capital improvement, I think when I said no, it's like the purchase of buildings, no.
Yeah.
But if there's a building there and it needs improving and it's going to become a hub and it's going to, that in itself is going to create change, yes, pay the artists.
Yeah, it seems like we all together as artists and musicians that we kind of have the answer already in front of us as far as creating a festival of music, art, and education centered around, you know, the local Native people here. You know, having them oversee and be a huge part of creating a kind of a festival where we could have people from out of this area come and help the economy here, you know, but at the same time, educate people about the original inhabitants that were here. Okay.
Thanks so much, Rob. And I would be grateful to hear from you as tribal chief about what you're hearing and whether you like that idea or whether other things have come to mind. If you don't mind, if I pass you the mic. Thank you.
We our part in Cretan and Mark kind of deal situations what you guys are talking about. If we're working with the Trinity High School up there in a club, a small Native American club for teaching agricultural and stuff like that. But then again, we're like you, where you come out of teacher and a little bit too simple. But that's our biggest problem is running into teaching situations where we in the travel, the distance that we have to travel to teach here or out that we necklace making the new making and drum making and stuff like that. If we are involved in that there, we're working with the high school right now. We'll probably get that again off the ground this year to start that program up again. To start teaching our kids their culture and who they come from. Trinity County High School here is in order to Native American school, and that's a lot of Native Americans in it, and different tribes and everything like that. But our culture is pretty much considered for all that. But we're having problems with grants. Getting grants for these, to get these programs for the office grant, and everything like that there. Teachers is a big problem. We have we volunteer on guys work with us, as far as bringing that there, the conditions of that, it's sometimes a little more than we can do. But we are trying to do our part.
I just have a quick question for you, if you don't mind. This is, so I've heard this a couple of times today, the issue of accessing teachers. So in Nevada County, we have a teaching artist program. It's called Artists in Schools, and we serve 1,000 kids a week throughout the entire school year with 7 teaching artists across 3 school districts and 6 different schools and community centers. Almost without exception, those teaching artists are incredibly well trained and well educated. They don't necessarily have their California credentials, And we definitely have a process for vetting those artists. They're marvelous and they have a lot of classroom experience. But first and foremost, they are artists. The artist part comes first, the teaching part comes second. But we interview them and there is a process. Are you saying that you only want to work and you only can work with credentialed artists, or would you be interested in creating a teaching artist coalition or cohort that could support these activities? I'm trying to understand what the issue is. It credentialed teachers or the lack of artists who can teach?
On the topic of teaching, I think that I may have misled in some way that the Arts Council or myself and my partner are looking for vetted teachers. We're looking for teachers, mentor type teachers, teachers that can pass on the tradition of our native people, where we share what we know with our children.
Yeah.
And I learned from experience that having a classroom paired with adults there instead of just one person works best. And so I just don't, I don't see a problem with creating these programs right here in Trinity County. We're very diverse. There's the Hmong community. We just have to be open to Native American people, have to be open to sharing what they know with other young people in Trinity County, all young people in Trinity County. We need to get together.
Might I suggest to the Arts Council, Carla, I'm not sure if is Carla still with us?
Yeah.
It would be great to have perhaps a roundtable discussion with your local tribe and brainstorm this, because obviously we can't, there are probably factors that are sensitive and it's almost like a meeting by itself. Would you be open to meeting with the Arts Council, John, and having a brainstorm that's yes. Okay, Carla, you are, and Pam, you are hereby challenged. Let's have a specific meeting and see how we can work with the local tribe to generate ideas around the passing of skills to the new generations in all the ways that you yourself mentioned, and how the community can support and build capacity around that.
Like I mentioned that we're also involved in we're hosting what they call Heritage Day. We're in Trinity County, we did it back here, so that's the 14 years ago. Back here is the biggest deal there. They've got it up off the ground. I plan on doing that again this year here. We're now incorporating our tribal dancers, and then we're incorporating our artists. We have an artist in Phil Harper, who is a great artist. His brother is a great artist. And their art and stuff does maybe and stuff like that. So we're hoping that again this year here, and so if anybody would like to learn more about what we're doing in that, as far as the native culture and stuff like that, we have different programs. We know we got the Arts Council that gave us some artists last year to help us to incorporate some of that into the food. So you might want to keep that in mind. We're open to meeting with any group that we can help with.
Again, I'm so aware that every time I speak, I don't have the full facts, so I don't know the tribal numbers within the county. And I know in our community, we only have 142 members. Most of them do not consider themselves artists, and yet we know how sensitive it is when other peoples who are not tribal peoples try to replicate indigenous ways and culture bearing ways, and so it is a very sensitive thing, and we depend upon you, your local communities, to gather around and create capacity for the tribe and help, and I'm sure you will. Thank you so much, John, for speaking to that. I feel like the Arts Council is going to be, is obviously already engaged, and we can go further through this grant.
Hi, I'm Angel. Most of you know me because I'm still businesses in the county. I just want to say, I think we mostly just have a communication issue. I've worked with the Arts Council for years. I didn't know they didn't have teachers. I've been asked to do classes before and nothing ever came through. I teach classes. I now work with a nonprofit in Reading and teach classes for disabled veterans and disabled children. And I think there's just like a lot of boundaries. Carla's now in Hyde Falls, so that's one of the smaller communities. I'm in Hayford. I try to do stuff in Weaverville. And I think there's just like not a lot of communication on what counties or what towns need, what kind of resources. And it's hard because like in Hayford, the doers are already doing everything. And I'm one of those people. I'm on the Chamber of Commerce. I'm the Associated Hayford Artists. I'm not actually on the theater group MOB, but I support them whenever they need it. So I think we just need to pull together all of our community, all of our organizations and see who needs what. And I think that's really where we're at, even with all of the grant stuff.
I'm so glad, and I know Carla, who can't be with us today, would really want that input. Remember, your Arts Council is, like many of you, a non-profit organization with an absence of funding. I encourage you to mobilize the Arts Council. Like, if one of you is a great communicator, offer to volunteer to communicate alongside, like you clearly speak to that much needed area of access to arts. I mean, that's incredible. You're going to be coming up with projects. You're going to be lending yourself to be a paid person within a project that can speak to those communities you need, whatever it is. Don't give up on each other. Mobilize and offer your support. And remember that even though you're a group of people in a room, you're often alone answering many calls. And be compassionate with one another when you're considering how this communication network can be created. The Facebook group seems like a good idea. In Nevada County, we have monthly creatives meetups, and we rove around the place. We don't have them in one place. We don't expect always people to come to us, but we go to this community or that community, this organization or that organization. And then one of the questions we ask is, we ask artists to put their hands up, tell us that they're there, tell everyone else that they're there, and what's the one thing they need. So keep asking each other, what's needed, what do you have that I don't have, what do I have that you don't have? It sounds amazing. Just keep connected and don't give up. Any other projects on the environmental side that maybe anyone inspired?
My name is Anissa. I'm with Trinity County Arts Alive, and I've been very excited for this all week. I have my own grants and things that I wanted to incorporate this into. As a muralist, I'm very for art in the community and doing open call projects to encourage more lesser known artists to be involved in a community and do educational based art. I just wanted to spur the idea. I've been interested in pairing this with a power recycle grant and installing recycling receptacles in different areas of the county and trying to make it also an open call. So we can do an open call for artists to design them or create outreach materials for their communities and doing activities like that. Now, would that align with some of the goals of this grant?
Could do. I love it. I mean, do you want to go into it a little bit more?
Just like with our programs, we do a lot with Trinity River restoration and doing the Trinity River cleanups and trying to prevent trash from going into the river system. And we do a lot of cleanups on the trails and trying to raise more awareness of all the trash that's on the ground or coming out of your trash can will eventually make it to the river and impact our habitat for fish and salmon and birds and everything that lives around there.
So you're looking at creating an awareness campaign with artists at the forefront. That's exactly what this program is about. So refine the narrative, start talking with artists who have similar interests, and you know, go for it. You were not in the group. Would you like to introduce yourself? It might be putting you on the spot. At the beginning, when we all introduce ourselves.
My name is Lady Garza. I'm actually now in Trinity County, so my apologies, I was late. I'm glad you're here and for thinking that presentation. I'm really happy to see you. So, thank you for being here. And what was your first name? Letty, thank you so much for joining. I just think it's amazing when people from government show up, don't you? It's just so important.
Nice ones, yeah.
A very good friend of mine is the new county administrative officer, and really bad at acronyms, so I trip over them. In Plymouth County, Deborah Lacero has worked with arts councils for many, many years. She was executive director of Shasta Arts Council for a long time, as well as the Butte County Arts Council, and she's just now doing your position in Plymouth, and she has incredible ideas about how the county and she can motivate artists around rally around projects that are creating meaning around issues that are you would be very interested as a county executive. So she might be someone that's really great for you to connect in with, and if we can make sure that Letty gives us our email, then I can connect you with Deborah, and she can like totally inspire you.
One of the ideas, not fully fleshed out at all, but it's kind of something off that you had said, but I've been thinking about doing a playwright festival for a long time, and maybe having some sort of either a strong social justice or an environmental kind of theme to that, and then taking one of those plays and then maybe performing them in empty storefronts or living rooms all around our county, in kind of engaging the community as a whole through a play. And just seeing, especially if it's something that speaks to, like, you know, a social justice or environmental theme, of how that plays differently, you know, in High and Palm to a High and Palm audience, you know, or somewhere out, you know, in Burke Ranch or, you know, in Weaverville. So that's just something that has come up. So I thank you, especially that empty storefront idea.
I love it. And I love the way that you're, you know, the empty storefront. Very often we think of only visual artists. The other day I called a friend of mine called David Pittman, who used to be the chair of literature and theatre, I think, at the National Endowment for the Arts. And I had no idea that he was so kind of knowledgeable about the WPA programs, but then I ordered a couple of books feeling completely uneducated about the WPA. When they arrived, I saw that he'd written the introductions. So I called him and I said, David, we need your help. Because everywhere we go, we're asking communities, what are you thinking as we share this impossible data? And we ask for feedback on your lived experiences and how you would translate the data for your communities. Communities are also simultaneously asking us, would you give us examples of ideas? You know what I mean? So it's a bit of a chicken and egg. And I said, David, would you be willing to do a sort of upstate region-wide Zoom call with all our literature and theatre people and give us some ideas, like brainstorm together? And said, absolutely. So we'll do it. So we'll gather together. John, do not let me forget to. John has a very long list of things she has to tell me not to forget, but I think this is really important. We have a very narrow window where we could all be talking about this, refining our ideas so that we're not just shooting into the dark from the fly. So thank you for that.
Thanks, forget.
Oh, do not, no one must leave the room until we've got a group photo. I think we're at the end of our time now.
Close to, but there's a couple more. Right there.
Hi, this is Rick White again, and sorry, I'm hanging out in the back. I'm following doctor's orders to keep any ice contained, so. Swallow wrong. So several things came to mind. One, I forwarded information to Carla while we were talking, but a cousin of mine in Florida bought on her own a bus and renovated it into an art bus, art teacher. And so now she has like a mobile library, she has a mobile art classroom. And she drives around and delivers art education kids all over where she lives. And so that seems like a great fit for our family where we're so spread out and it's so hard to get things, so that could be something that we worked on. And then I heard about the recycling and art, and we're having some economic development roundtable discussions, and there are people in the community who have gained access to equipment that can take plastic that needs to be recycled and turn it into material that can be used for art. So that's already here, available for us to try to use. And then within that economic development work, we kind of ran into something like what I'm hearing here, where we have lots of great things going on and we're all just scattered. And so we're trying to bring that together. So one of the ways that we're doing that, besides having a group that will meet regularly, is we established a Google Drives document. And it lists in categories all the different things that are going on and which group is doing them, so that we can start to see, oh, well, maybe this can build on this, and maybe this could work with this. And my only concern about a Facebook group, which I think is great for interactive, you have to keep up with a stream of consciousness versus a document where you can organize your thoughts and people can keep adding, but it's structured and it's organized. So it's just my 2 cents. Economic development, it's just my personal drive right now, but I'm sure at some point we'll have it more county specific.
Well, that would be really great if you would circulate that document. I would encourage you to do both. So say you had a Facebook group through which you could have an iterative ongoing conversation. Every now and again, just post that again, you know what I mean? And keep it, just keep communicating. And again, I will encourage poor Carol, when she's feeling better, just to engage with you all again. We'll be passing on all these emails today to Carla. Was one of us, is anyone not spoken? Anyone not spoken? This is a challenge to anyone who hasn't spoken. Okay.
Sorry, my glasses. I'm Karen Hammer. I manage the Main Street Gallery, and this is actually kind of a question regarding, we're a nonprofit, we're 100% volunteers, and our board members are aging. And the gallery's been, we took it over, from the art council about 15 years ago. I've been running it since. And my concern is being able to keep the doors open. We do provide a place for local artists, mostly all of them are from Northern California. We do have some from Southern Oregon as well. But it's a venue for artists to show their work. And my concern right now is that we have a very difficult time finding people to help run the gallery. And as I say, we're an aging group and people are going to be dropping out. And so we need assistance. And I was thinking that we were able to pay for people to run the gallery. We can keep it going. We are just actually next door here. We're downtown, and I think it's very important part of downtown. We're going, I need to see us close doors for a lack of bodies to make it work. So I was just hoping that maybe, even though we're a going concern, I know this is quite within your purview probably, but it's an important part of downtown.
So that's a kind of like an open challenge for the community, isn't it? You've stated the need. You want a younger generation artists to come in and help curate and run the gallery. If you are putting those artists to work, and if you are somehow framing a project around an issue that is critical to society while you are putting those artists to work, maybe it can be a project. So don't give up on it. But I think that intergenerational thing, I couldn't agree with you more. It's like absolutely critical that you involve young people, and you've already spoken to it. You absolutely understand. So great. I'm so glad I asked you to speak. Well, I think it's time to gather